And good afternoon, Patriots. It is 1 o'clock Eastern, and you are watching Steel News. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be an interesting show today because the establishment media is in full-blown meltdown mode over a man named Tyler Dykes, a Marine veteran, a Low Country son, and someone the corporate press wants you to fear. Why? Because he won't bow. He won't apologize, and he won't pretend that January 6th was anything other than what many Americans still believe it was, a warning shot against deep institutional corruption. The Post and Courier calls him a criminal. The political class calls him dangerous. But the people of South Carolina, they're calling him something else: necessary. Meanwhile, his GOP opponent, Sam McCown, is running around with a clown nose digitally attached to his face by his own critics, lecturing America while refusing to touch the Epstein network, violent crime, or the medical industrial abuses that threaten our children. Tyler Dykes is pushing back, and today he joins us exclusively. We're going to be talking about the FBI kicking in his door, his fight against foreign influence, his solutions for housing theft by global finance, and why he says the Low Country will never, ever again accept weak men with strong donor lists. This is Steel News, and today we're talking to the man the establishment wishes you'd never hear from. Welcoming now to the stage is Tyler Dykes. Tyler, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. You've said you've been fighting for this country since you were 17. What was the moment you realized America needed saving from within?
Well, when I was growing up as a kid, I was always the socially liberal, fiscal conservative type. And I always had these beliefs where you had to be open, you had to be tolerant, you had to have all these different things that happen. And I wasn't too heavily involved in politics. Then I saw the 2016 campaign begin to kick off as Trump ran for office. And I told my parents, even the Republican primary in the first few weeks, I said, I have no idea who this Donald Trump guy, I know for a fact, though, he's going to win. And so it was actually largely Trump that got me started to get interested in politics. When he went up on the debate stage and he refused to back down, he named the establishment. He said it is time for Americans to stand up to the elites. That is when I said, you know what? I need to reconsider my beliefs. And I began to investigate and to research. And that is what truly began to spur on my involvement in politics.
Interesting. Donald Trump had an impression on my life early on in my 20s when I worked for him. And then I read his book and I told my dad, God, I hope this guy runs for president one day. That was back in 1992.
Wow.
Excuse me, 1991. Pardon me. But yeah. And so when he came down the escalator, I had a similar reaction. I guess I'm going to have to get on this thing called Twitter that I thought was for Beyonce and all those criminals, and see what's out there. And boy, what a brave new world that turned out to be. But anyway, so you joined the Marine Corps out of love for this nation. How did that experience shape the man that we see sitting here today?
Well, it absolutely and completely reshaped me. I had previously been at Cornell University at Ithaca, New York. I spent one semester there as an engineer in biomedical engineering. But while I was there, I was actually driven out and I left, and I did not re-up and go back for the second semester because of how openly communist that the staff and the faculty were. We're studying the antibiotic resistance and the future of humanity when it comes to the medical field. And what's the professor talking about? How we need to ban guns. And so I dropped out, I left Cornell, and I went into the Marine Corps instead. And I have to say, I loved every second of it. I love the Marine Corps. I love the camaraderie, the people in it. But above all, it really gave me the discipline to be able to see things through to the end. Were it not for the Marine Corps experience and training me and disciplining me and giving me technical knowledge and actually making me tougher, because I was fairly weak before I joined the Marine Corps, it made me mentally and physically strong enough to be able to take the abuse that I now receive and that I now get attacked with. And it made me be able to get through my January 6th experience largely unscathed. And so I thank the Marine Corps, and I thank God that I joined the Marine Corps every single day, because I loved every single second of it.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm a daughter of, big military, my dad, my grandfather, my great-great-grandfather in the Revolutionary War, 2 sons. So I definitely believe that America needs a strong military, and we need strong men in the military.
Yes.
That doesn't come without its own sacrifices. And for that, we thank you very much for your service. Unfortunately, the mainstream media likes to pick on people in the service, and they may or may not have cause. We're going to address that because you are a January 6th attendee, as am I, as are many people that have been on this show and not been on this show, and many pardoned by the president. Thank God for that. But mainstream media rags like the Post and Courier and others have pushed a very viral hit piece tying your January 6th plea to your congressional run. What did they get wrong, and what aren't they telling the public?
Well, every single aspect of January 6th was rigged against the defendants, against myself and everyone else, as well as in the news media. So to give a little bit of detail and background, I did attend on January 6th. I went into the crowd. I was there listening to Trump's speech, and he said, go over to the Capitol building and make your voices peacefully heard. So I went over to the Capitol building. I went around sort of the trail on the left side, going from where the speech was over to the building. And as I approached, this is where the media said that I began to tear down barricades and lead the way forward and charging forward in January 6th. This, of course, is a lie. The quote video footage of me tearing down these said barriers is me grabbing the barriers and looking over the edge. And of course, they just screenshotted that and printed it out. And so they said I was leading the way, tearing down barricades. Not true. So then as I approached the Capitol building and got closer, largely the amount of violence that was happening at that point, it was a party, right? There were people that were dancing. There was someone twerking on top of it, looked like a police Humvee, music going on. There was nothing crazy that was happening. And nothing crazy would have happened except for what the police decided to do. They deliberately attacked the crowd, provoked the crowd by shooting percussive grenades into the crowd where there were women and children present. And as the police did that, them again to push forward, and they would push into the crowd and then retreat backwards. And I actually witnessed these police officers actually go out of their way to attack women who happened to just be standing there because they were deliberately trying to provoke a response from the crowd. I am obviously not going to just sit there and watch as people get attacked unprovoked. So I moved forward. The whole crowd surged forward. And it was at that moment that it changed. The energy changed from like a fun party environment or like a energetic high school assembly. And that's when it started to become violent. But even then, when it started to become more violent, the violence was coming exclusively from the police. And so they would go in, they'd attack, they'd bait people forward, and then they'd retreat.
Were you on the east or west side? I don't recall what you said.
I don't remember exactly whether it was the east or west side. It was not on the tunnel side. It was on the smaller end where there were fewer people and there wasn't the big crowd of people.
So were you crossing the Supreme Court or with the Washington Monument behind you?
I do not remember. I'm not exactly sure of my directions in DC. That was the
no worries. No worries.
So I don't have it all memorized. I'm sure it's in a court document somewhere. And so I went up and I was in the crowd and I was towards the front of the crowd, but I was not the ringleader. I was not baiting people to go in. And the media, of course, the articles all say that I was doing something like that, and I wasn't. And so the cops would push in and then back up, push in, back up. And so the crowd pushed forward, myself included, within the crowd towards the front. We pushed up the stairs going up to the Capitol building. And now, pretty much all that it was about 50 people, 50 to 100 people, all with their cell phones in the air trying to record. And everyone was trying to push in close to see what was going on. And if the cops, I firmly believe, if they had just said, hey, this is an unlawful assembly, please leave, and they just stood there, the crowd would have dispersed. Instead, what happened, and this is something that happened that ended up with me getting charged with robbery with a deadly weapon. The police officer had a riot shield, and he took it and he slammed it down on the head of a woman who was two people in front of me, slammed it down on the head. This woman starts to fall over. All of the people around the officer that overextended and hit the woman reached in and grabbed hold of the shield. I was not one of those people that managed to grab the shield. While I certainly did try to reach it, it was too far out of my reach. The crowd pulled the shield out of their hands, out of the cops' hands. And then once they had it, they let go of it like it was poison. But at that exact moment, all of the police officers pulled out their pepper spray and we're getting ready to pepper spray the crowd. And I don't want to get pepper sprayed, so what I do, I picked up the shield that everyone dropped and covered it up to protect myself with. I never once touched the riot shield while it was in the officer's hands. And yet for that event, they charged me with robbery with a deadly weapon, where the item that was robbed was the riot shield, and the deadly weapon that was used in that robbery was also the riot shield. And so they're trying to hit me and say that I was violent, that I had weapons, that I attacked people and violently assault officers. But the most violence that ever came close that came from myself was essentially picking up the riot shield. Then,
Tyler, is there any video of you that would corroborate this story? Because of course, when you look at the Department of Justice, their indictment press release on your particular case, the story is different. So is there something that you can show to corroborate that? Not that I don't believe you, but, in terms of fair and balanced here, is there anything that like that? Because you said a lot of people had cell phones. Were you able to get that cell phone video from anybody to prove what you're saying?
Well, that's a very funny thing. The honorable judge in my case actually put out a gag order banning me from being able to have any of the discovery evidence for me to be able to defend myself from the false claims. That is in the dockets. I reached out to my public defender lawyers who were assisting me with the case, and they said that as they are still, of course, federal servants and whatnot, they are still beholden to that order to not give me any of that evidence, despite the fact I've received the full pardon. And most of the J6 footage has been scrubbed from the internet. I'm sure that there are files that exist somewhere, but it took over 1,000 hours of looking through footage just to find going through discovery footage. And so I'm sure it is out there somewhere if someone can
maybe
find
have you spoken to David Sumrall at stophate.com?
I have spoken with him. I'm sure he's got footage there somewhere. I'll have to get access to all of the files and look through it and everything.
Yeah, but I would encourage you to do that because, when people actually reference the footage, it flies in the face of the narrative that it was printed on indictments and in media by the Department of Justice and the water carriers and the mainstream media. So essentially, this has been another smear campaign. How do you actually navigate being labeled an insurrectionist then when your whole message is restoring the American dream? That must be difficult as someone running for South Carolina's 1st district, the congressional district there.
Well, you know what? It actually is a good thing because we have an extremely large number of people that are running for this seat. I think now the 10th or 11th person just announced. We have a county council member from every single county in this district. We have sitting House members in the state House. We've got wealthy doctors, military men, all these different people are trying to run for the seat since Nancy Mace is no longer going to be running for her seat as she's running for governor. And so because of that, any kind of advantage or anything that will set me apart from everybody else is a good thing, not a bad thing. And so the more that they call me insurrectionist, the more people that will see that, the more people that will think, wait, is this guy an insurrectionist? And then they'll go and then they'll look at my website and they say, no, this guy is actually pretty cool. We want to vote for him. And so all that their negative attention is giving me is more eyes and more votes. And that is something that will be huge in such a crowded primary.
Absolutely. You said on X recently that you had your door kicked in and rifles pointed at your roommate's head. Walk us through what really happened during that raid.
Well, thankfully, I was not actually home. So I heard all of the details from my roommates. And so they went in and they bashed open the door. They kicked open the door and they did a raid and started tearing up all of my stuff, all of his stuff, looking all around, trying to dig up everything. I was running an IT services company at the time where I was doing business-to-business IT and computer repairs and that kind of thing. And they confiscated all of my client computers that I was working on repairing. They took them. Still to this day, I have not gotten back those computers that were my clients.
Wow.
And so they were just, SOL when it came to that.
So you've lost your business, your bank account, you face death threats.
Correct.
I mean, honestly, sometimes people ask me, with the threats I've gotten and the nonsense I put up with, but this is even more extensive here. Why keep fighting instead of walking away?
Because America needs strong men of good character to stand up and say, we will not be intimidated. And, it's like that scene from A Bug's Life, where all it takes is one ant standing up to the grasshoppers to set an example for all the other people. And the reality is that the average American people outnumber the elites 10 million to 1. And so it only takes a couple of people standing up in order to make a difference and to make a change. And so that is why the system is so terrified of me, because I have been through the ringer. I've been to prison. I've been attacked. I've been destroyed. I've had death threats. I lost my business. I had 2 rental real estate properties that I purchased with the profits from my business. I lost both of those. I got fired from the jobs that I got afterwards. And yet, despite all of this, I still fight on. I will not be silenced. I will not be intimidated by these people. And so the reason that I'm keeping going, that I can keep going despite all of these attacks, is because we need strong American leadership who are willing to sacrifice on behalf of the American people. And if we just had 3, 4, or 100 people like that, we would make revolutionary change in this country and actually make the world a better place.
Well, I couldn't agree more with you on that. Again, I think the audience is concurring. I mean, they're looking for the alpha males to show up. I want to talk about something that's a little bit delicate right now, because the minute you bring it up, you get called an anti-Semite. But it's regarding AIPAC, and you've actually called AIPAC out and demanded that they register under FARA, the Foreign Agent Registration Act. Why is this such a critical issue for the American voter from where you're sitting?
Well, for a few reasons. For one, the way that it works is that Israel funnels money into AIPAC. AIPAC then gives that money to congressional and Senate candidates and presidential campaigns to make sure that they win. Then once these people are in office, they then vote to send billions more dollars to Israel. And so fundamentally, we have a large amount of corrupt people that are in office that are using the foreign lobbying in order to make themselves rich. And this would not really be an issue if they were only doing this for like 5 or 6 candidates or 5 or 6 politicians. But you go to the AIPAC website, like apac.org/2024 election, and they brag openly about how they bought 3/5 of the House of Representatives federally, enough to stop any piece of legislation that they want without extreme public pressure. And so because of that, we have people that are in office that are now beholden to the people that got them elected, to the people that fundraised, the people that did the advertising for them. And so because of that, these politicians are very afraid to bite the hand that feeds them. And so because of that, many of these people will push for policies that are detrimental to the American people and beneficial for the Middle East and for other people and not for us. And so from my perspective, it is important that they register under FARA so that they cannot unlimitedly lobby our politicians. And it's important just to put America first.
I agree. Is there any room for lobbying at all as a congressional candidate or as somebody serving in Congress? Should we even have lobbyists, corporate money?
I would like to say no, but I am sure that there are some corporations out there that are America first, that have strong CEOs and leadership that actually would want to help. And there's a growing consensus among people that we actually need to make things better. And so hopefully those people will actually use their money to do some good in the world. But in an ideal world, probably not. I would not want there to be very much corporate lobbying. But I'd have to look more into who's doing the lobbying before I say that I would want to ban it altogether.
Okay, fair enough. You've strongly advocated for mass deportations of illegal aliens. What does America first, America only look like in policy?
We need to put American people and citizens first. You know, it says in the Bible, biblically, Jesus said, take the plank out of your eye before you take the speck out of somebody else's, or the splinter out of somebody else's. This was not only biblical, but this was practical, good advice. You have to fix yourself first before you can help anybody else. You know, when you're on the airplane, they tell you to put your own oxygen mask on first before you help somebody else, because otherwise you could pass out and then both you and the other person die. And that is exactly what is happening to America right now. We are prioritizing everybody except for our own people. And our own people, in my opinion, the American people are the best people in the world. And so should America collapse, should the American people fall, it will mean death and famine for tens and tens of millions of people across the world. And so we have to put Americans first. And by putting Americans first and putting Americans only, we can actually help everyone else as well. And so what does that mean for policy? That means we have to deport every single illegal alien, every single one. It does not matter if they commit crimes. It does not matter what they do. Every single one must go. And listen, I've talked to a lot of illegal aliens. When I was in prison, there were a number of illegal aliens that were there in federal prison. I interacted with a very large number of these people, and a lot of them are respectable, hardworking people. But at the same time, because they're here illegally, they are fundamentally treated as slaves, as cattle. Because if they disobey their employer, if they don't work 60 or 80 hours a week, they can just be deported. And so the employers have leverage over them, and that leverage results in the American worker being pushed out of so many different jobs. And so even though so many of these are good people, though a lot of these illegals are good people, they are still by their very presence negatively impacting the American people. On top of that, by their being here, we're actually depriving Mexico and South America and the rest of the world of some of their good people that could actually fix their countries. So we're not only hurting our own people, but we're hurting their people as well. So they need to be sent back, and we need to close the borders to prioritize our own workers first.
From where I'm sitting, Tyler, and I've done a lot of work on the border with Michael Young and Operation Burning Edge. We've been through the Darien Gap in Central America and all along the Texas border, and we've seen it all. We've seen the child trafficking, the human trafficking, the filth, literally the waste and filth and trash that they leave behind everywhere. It seems like we're importing third world problems into a first world country, and the more you dilute something, the more diluted it becomes, right? So we have really taken America from what I would consider first world status in a lot of our cities down to third world when you travel across the country in the fashion that I have, literally driving coast to coast numerous times. It's really quite sad what I see happening here. In the meantime, they're getting paid to be here and Americans are suffering. I did an interview yesterday with a gentleman, Paul Renner, who's running for governor of Florida, and he has a very strong plan to step down property tax and get immediate relief now while we work through this, Florida Senate to eliminate it, which I think should be done, and also address, insurance, et cetera. But, today we've got problems with, big corporations going back to lobbying that, are buying up houses. And in fact, you actually talk about BlackRock. You want to ban BlackRock and similar firms from buying single family homes. How do corporate buyers impact the average family in your district there in South Carolina's 1st District?
Quite a bit, quite an extreme amount, actually. Charlie Kirk said shortly before he died that if BlackRock, Blackstone, and similar organizations are not stopped, those major investors will own 60% of all housing in the United States. And what they're doing even here in our district and in Beaufort, Berkeley, Dorchester counties and the surrounding areas is they are buying these properties and then they are selling them back and forth to their subsidiaries to increase artificially the market rate of the homes. Then after they sell it a certain number of times and drive the prices up, property taxes drastically increase for all the neighbors. The neighbors, many of whom in this area, for example, are retirees, do not have the money, the extra funds to be able to pay the higher property taxes. So that results in then a lot of these people having to sell their homes against their will. The result being that BlackRock can then sweep in and buy out entire neighborhoods. And what's even worse is that once they buy out these neighborhoods, there's been a growing amount of actually illegal and non-citizen and H-1B visa holders whom are renting these places. And so it is actively pushing Americans out of our own home and actively filling it in with foreigners whom are propped up by these international corporations. And so it is actually I would define it as an existential issue. And here's my perspective. If we do not fix this issue, 10 years from now, 99% of people will not be able to own a home. And when 99% of people can't afford to own a home, communism starts to look really attractive to them. And that is how you get the rise of radical leftism and revolution in this country. So stopping BlackRock from purchasing these single family homes is actually helping to stop the rise of communism.
All right. Well, I'm for that. We don't need more communists. We have a lot flooding that have flooded across the borders as of late, thanks to the 4 years of the Biden regime. Not to mention, we've got Democrats, Socialists of America. We have Communists of America. I mean, this is, they don't hide it. That's for sure. And we're seeing more and more young, youth are being influenced, with the rise of Mandami in New York City. So it is very disturbing what we see happening, the trend. And I would agree with you that when homeowners are edged out and they can't afford to buy due to interest rates and artificially inflated home prices, you tend to start to look elsewhere for solutions. Pivoting now to Nancy Mace, the lady whose seat you're going to fill as she takes off and runs for governor of South Carolina. You've said that Nancy Mace has, and I quote you, bigger balls than Dr. Sam McCown. What do you mean by that?
Well, I have to say that there are a lot of people that have very, very positive and very, very negative views of Congresswoman Nancy Mace. It seems that people either love her or hate her. One thing, though, that completely won my respect for her was her standing up to the pressure to push for the release of the Epstein files. As far as I'm aware of, currently there were 4 people that on the Republican side that did that. You had Lauren Boebert, Thomas Macy, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Congresswoman Nancy Mace. And I was actually shocked to hear that Nancy actually went ahead and did that. And so I'm actually very happy that she pushed and that she did that. She stood up to the victims of sex trafficking, or stood up for the victims of sex trafficking. And that took a lot of courage and a lot of bravery and a lot of backbone in order to do so. And I also understand that she had pressure from the top down trying to get her to change her mind, and she refused. Meanwhile, you have Dr. Sam McGowan, who has put $3 million of his own dollars into the race. He is afraid to even talk about immigration. You go look on his Twitter page or his X, you go look on any of his websites or anything that he's doing. He says, and I quote, "Government spending is the biggest threat to our nation's future." And so from my perspective, that is an incredibly weak man. That is someone that should not be running for office and is not capable of actually doing what's necessary. And then meanwhile, you have Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who actually stood up to everybody in order to get the Epstein files released. And so from my perspective, that is substantially braver than Dr. Sam McGowan. Hence, she has much bigger balls than he does.
Okay, fair enough. What separates a true America First candidate from a polished GOP placeholder?
The biggest difference that I would say is follow through. So the true America First candidates, in my opinion, are people that have a track record of fighting against the establishment, not of giving in. And on top of that, it also has to do with lobbying and who your endorsements are and who's actually fundraising for you. A significant amount of people try to run for office and just buy their way in. They get all this different funding. You have AIPAC and the Israel issue. You have immigration. What puts America first, in my opinion, what makes someone America first, is somebody that actually says and does the things that will make life better for the American people. So if you don't talk about immigration, you're not America first. If you don't want to talk about the foreign lobby, you're not America first. If you're not willing to even touch the subject of should Israel have this much influence in our elections, you are not America first. You have to talk about these issues in order to be America first. Yeah. And right now, a lot of these people, in fact, none that I know of right now, are actually talking about many, if any, of these issues.
You said that the fight is going to continue, whether you win or lose. You have a big field. Right now, I think you said about 10 are in the field.
Correct.
What does the America First movement look like 5 years from now? Because we've seen a lot of, with all of the Epstein narrative, and we don't have any arrest narrative. And, the Biden regime had 800 people arrested within the first few months. I mean, it's just, that what we have suffered and sustained in terms of what we consider to be, some sort of accountability has been almost zero. In fact, today,
Yep.
Comey, or tomorrow, Comey is in prison, in a hearing, is either tomorrow or Friday. But what is already being signaled is that he's going to walk. And I think that is going to be devastating to MAGA. So what do we look like in 5 years if we don't get accountability, and if you don't win?
Well, if I don't win, I'm going to continue to be involved in politics. I'm going to continue to push for America first. And if I don't win, I'm going to run in 2028. So I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. The biggest mistake, in my opinion, that a lot of people make is that they fail one time and they don't continue. Right? I mean, what was it? Walt Disney had like 100 failed businesses before he got started. Carnegie had hundreds of failed businesses. Steve Jobs had hundreds of failed businesses. Everyone who has ever done anything worthwhile has failed a minimum of a couple of 100 times before they actually did anything of note. And so even if I don't make it, and I fully intend to win, I am fighting to win. But even if I don't, the fight doesn't stop. We have to continue to put pressure on our politicians to follow through with America first. And so my aim also is to push the discourse further to the right within our district. And so that whoever does win, hopefully myself, but if someone else does win, they will have to follow through with some America First principles in order to win. And in doing so, we can help hold our politicians accountable. We can help put pressure on them. And if we continue to build the grassroots campaign networks and the grassroots organizations, then when it comes time for 2028, it will be we, the people, who decide what actually gets done, and we can put pressure on them in order to get them replaced. Like with these Epstein files, for example, that was all from public pressure on congressmen to get that done.
You're absolutely right. And the public pressure grew louder and louder. The Democrats got, more squirrely and more squirrely. So listen, I don't think MAGA should have anything to fear. If you're a MAGA candidate, you shouldn't be worried about being in the Epstein files. If you're not, if you're a rhino, or if you're a Democrat, yeah, you might be concerned because you're probably in there. But, at the end of the day, it's about getting in there and getting some work done. So on that vein, first, who do you see yourself really aligned with should you get into Congress? Who would be sort of your mentor that you would want to, sort of walk alongside with? And number two, what committees would you want to serve on?
Those are great questions. I think that I would probably want to reach out to Marjorie Taylor Greene and to Thomas Macy, of course. They are excellent America First patriots that are currently sitting in office. And I would think that they would be open to working, for example, I believe that Marjorie just pushed for an H-1B visa ban. That is phenomenal. I think we need more of that. Congressman Chip Roy, I believe he just pushed for a total immigration moratorium, a ban on all immigration until we can fix the chain migration visa, the visa lotteries, all these different issues. And so I would hope to be able to push things through like that in order to actually make a difference for the American people. As for being on a committee, I'm not entirely sure yet. I'd have to do more research. I expect as a junior congressman, getting on any committee, even the worst ones, would be very difficult, especially given my outspoken stance on America First. But I believe that my very presence in Congress will drastically shift the discourse, even if I do not push for anything myself. Because the fact that I'm able to win and be in office will show the American people are ready for a change. And so even the establishment and the rhino candidates who are in office will see that and will move to support the bills like the H-1B visa ban because of my presence. And so just by my existence within Congress, I will get more done than anyone else who is currently running against me.
Do you think that if we can actually have an election with no machines, paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID, etc., a clean election, a fair election, we're going to have a massive shift in the electorate in Congress in terms of the people that are serving? Will there be really a tidal wave of new candidates that come in and get rid of the establishment? Or will it be business as usual with a couple of wins here or there for the America First people?
I think America First is going to slam everything. I think that people that are America First and prioritize America First are going to become very popular and very successful here in the next few years, with or without fixing the rigging in our elections. The reality is that you can only rig elections so much before it becomes obvious that they're rigged and people start to fight back. For example, if you have 50,000 votes to 50,000 votes, you only need to rig one vote in order to win. But if you have 50,000 votes to 5 votes, there's no amount of rigging that's going to convince people that the election was actually valid. And so I very much so hope, though, that we were able to get rid of all of these things that are causing our elections to be rigged and help the Democrats. For one, we need to prioritize to make sure that only American citizens are counted in the census. That is one thing, for example. We need to make sure that we're not giving free congressional districts to the Democrats. Like I believe it was Indiana and Ohio recently. They've had traitorous GOP members help the Democrats win more seats for the redistricting efforts. And so that's an issue. But despite all of this opposition, despite a lot of illegals voting, the fraud, the Social Security theft, and all that other stuff, I do think that there's just so much momentum coming from the right and from the youth and from people that want a revolutionary change, that we are going to see a drastic shift, whether they rig things or not.
Well, that's encouraging. And speaking of encouraging, message of encouragement, what message do you have for the J6 families who are still really suffering in silence?
It's hard. It's hard, and I understand that it's hard. Everyone who's ever been through the J6 experience, their friends, their families, and loved ones have been devastated by the attacks. But the number one thing I would say to be hopeful for is not for a payment from the Trump administration. It's not even to be vindicated in court, because that'll take years, in my opinion. The thing that should give us hope is that the next generations, Generation Z especially, are standing up and willing to take the action that is necessary to make things better for the American people. And so because of that, that's what I would say gives me the most hope. Whenever I go to public events, whenever I talk to people, I am astounded by how much love and support that I have from everywhere, but especially from the youth. Every single time that I talk to someone under the age of 30, they're agreeing with me. They're telling me they want to help me. They want to do things. And a lot of January 6ers, like for example, I'm 27 and I'm one of the youngest January 6ers as far as I'm aware of. And so a lot of these people have had their lives destroyed. They got divorced. Some of them committed suicide. And it's just tragic. But I want to tell those people that justice is coming. It will take work. It will take effort. It will not be easy. We will be fought every single step of the way, but we will not be stopped, and we are going to win eventually. And so I want every person that was there on January 6th to know this. Your sacrifice was not in vain. You helped to make a difference.
Okay. Finally, and this is a big finally, I want to, get your sort of, so we say your promise to the good people of South Carolina's 1st District. What do you want the Low Country folks to know about you, Tyler Dykes, who you really are, and what you're going to bring to the table as their congressional representative?
The number one thing that I am going to bring to the table as a congressional representative is the spirit of the fight. I will never stop fighting for the American people, for my country, and for my home. And we need people that are willing to fight, that are willing to buck the status quo, and that are willing to do what is necessary for the American people. And because of that fight, I will push through and help get legislation passed that will strongly benefit every single person here in the Low Country. One of the biggest issues, for example, is housing. Here in the Low Country especially, it is ridiculously expensive. In Charleston, there are college students I know where they have 5 people in a 4-bedroom house, and each person is paying $1,000 a month. They have 4 roommates and they're paying $1,000 a month to live. That's ridiculous. We need to bring down housing costs. We need to bring down rents, but we need to do so without impacting the business owners and the investors to the point where they go bankrupt and then everyone gets destroyed. So we have to prioritize making things more affordable, lowering the cost of living, and the primary way for us to be able to do that is with mass deportations and ending the H-1B visa. And so that is my promise, that I will put those things first. I will put the American people first, the people of the Low Country first, and I will fight for you the way I did in the Marine Corps and the way that I did in January 6th.
Fantastic. Well, we've heard it from the horse's mouth. Tyler Dykes running for South Carolina's 1st District, former January 6er, Marine veteran. And I think you were very clean and plain spoken today. And I think you made a lot of sense. So I do appreciate you coming on. And you're in a big field with a lot of horses in the race. And Sam McCown obviously is probably out in front at the moment, but it's probably only because people haven't heard of you yet. So fundraising is critical. Name recognition is critical, and all these things, name recognition is signage. There's really not a magic formula to this. It's grassroots all the way, baby, but it does take money to get some of the grassroots work done. So if you like what you heard today, you can head on over to his website. And let me just pull that back up again here for you. It's dykesforcongress.com, dykesforcongress.com. I put some of his issues up here on the website. And I think it's a great website. He's got a 5-step plan for housing. He lays it all out here, folks. This is not, when I say it's not mysterious, he's very plain spoken and he's very upfront about what his positions are on all this. And we did cover this today. We didn't talk about property taxes, but you put it right on here on your website. You want to end property taxes and putting millions of dollars back into people's pockets. It's really just, it's why we left England, isn't it, Tyler? We decided we weren't going to pay the king's ransom to be on the dirt. We wanted our own dirt. We wanted to own it outright. Now we're renting it essentially with property tax.
Right.
So awesome. Listen, really appreciate you. Thank you very much. God bless. And we look forward to following this campaign. Hope you'll come back on.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
You're absolutely welcome. All right. Well, what we heard today wasn't the voice of a politician, clearly. It was the voice of a fighter, a man who stood in the streets when statues were toppled, who stood on the Capitol grounds when millions questioned the legitimacy of elections, and who continues to stand even after the system tried to break them. God, just looking at that DOJ indictment in the press release is really maddening. I mean, they just will not stop making up the story the way they wanted to. I hope Tyler does get a hold of David Sumrall over at stophate.com and gets that video footage, because whether you agree with him or not, Tyler Dykes represents a truth Washington cannot tolerate. The American people are done being ruled by cowards, donors, and global interests. The battle for South Carolina's 1st District isn't just a primary. It's a referendum on whether courage still has a place in Congress. This is Steel News. I'm Ann Vandersteel. Stay vigilant, stay loud, and as always, America first, America only, and God bless this republic. I'm going to leave you all with Birthright. This is the movie, Live Free and Born Free, and I'm in it, and it's a really phenomenal movie that was shot a couple of years ago, and it's being released in theaters around the country. I'm going to try and bring it down here to Florida. I can't say enough about it, but it does tell the true story of our republic and who we really are and what we've become. And I think it's pretty startling when you see the difference. Hope you enjoy the trailer. God bless.
True government is all about one thing and one thing only. What is the will of the people? I don't think they've been running it that way for a very, very, very long time.
We have a very keen sense of impending doom.
Oh, it's easier to live in the matrix. You know, ignorance is bliss. I'm like, is it? Wait until they knock on the door and they want to stick something in your arm. Or they want to take your kid because you didn't chop something off for them. Is ignorance bliss that? I don't think so.
Government's out of control. It has nothing to do with political party. Government stopped doing things to secure our freedom and started doing things to us to take away our freedom.
They've been talking about how the United States is a democracy. We're a constitutional republic.
The Constitution requires a republican form of government for all states, but does not mention democracy, and neither does the Declaration of Independence or the Bill of Rights.
Democracy is a form of government based upon the principle of majority rule. What would you call a lynch mob? That's majority rule.
The ideal of a constitutional republic is individual liberty.
We told government they could do 19 essential things for the states and no more. And now we've got 6.5 million pages of code, statutes, and ordinances.
We believed we were free, and in reality, the best slaves are the ones who believe they are free.
The law is whatever the powers that be in power happen to say it is today. And it may change tomorrow.
The birthright is anything that's given by God. It's unalienable. That means that no lien can be placed upon it.
It's to protect you from any opposing tyranny, whether it's government or anybody else for that matter.
So how can government have power over people who created it? Well, let's incorporate us so we can force them into the law of the water under contract called code, and now we can regulate and administer everything they do.
There is a higher law that dominates the entire world. It's called the law of the water, maritime admiralty.
So all governments can regulate is the commercial activities.
Between the states, but they've misconstrued it and they've pushed it all the way down to regulate commerce between you and your neighbor.
Could you go fishing, hunting, cut hair, and did you need a license? No, you didn't need licenses.
The United States Code, I mean, there's, I think, 52 titles, and each book is massive. You don't know what the law really is, right?
They are swimming around in their admiralty law over there, their rules, codes, ordinances, statutes, and they've trumped our Constitution. And we don't even stand up for that.
Now the relationship that the states have with the federal government is that of complete submission.
You no longer have states' rights.
How much deference we give to an agency in deciding what the law is.
The NIH, the CDC, the FDA, all of them are for-profit corporations that are not part of the 19 essential services over here. This corporate construct is what is destroying America.
Well, I found out that the Federal Reserve wasn't federal. If that's not true, what else isn't true?
The 16th Amendment was never properly ratified.
The original 13th Amendment isn't what it is today.
A warranty deed is not a title. The only title to land that there is a land patent.
Every crime is commerce.
You're looking for someone who committed a crime, but you're saying it's worth $1 million. How does it have a monetary value if it's a crime?
This one thing, the law, controls every aspect of our life, and yet they don't teach it to us.
How do we restore our republic? They gave us remedy. It's called the first 8 amendments.
We have a God-ordained civic duty to stand up and defend the Constitution, defend the liberty, the freedom that God gave us. These are our rights, and we're trampling on them.
My greatest hope is that we do the things necessary to reestablish our constitutional republic.
That's the way government's supposed to run. That's the way our founding fathers set it up. Stop the foreign agents. Come out of her, O ye Babylon, and have true, righteous, honest government of we the people.
This election is filled with promises of tax cuts that will go nowhere. But don't let this excess noise blind you to what's really at stake, your retirement. As economic volatility continues to grow, few are talking about the consequence that could ripple through your retirement savings. Many wealthy investors have started preparing for the shockwave ahead. Have you? If you have $50,000 or more saved for retirement, click the link below or call 1-888-782-9064 and secure your free guide to gold IRAs from AUGUSTA Precious Metals. Again, click the link below or call 1-888-782-9064.